Before we start the video, I'm proud to announce that the Eniqma is now available on Anchor and Spotify. And with that, I hope you enjoy the video. On August 22nd, 1988, Marie Kono was missing. She was last seen playing at her friend's house. It's unusual for her to come home so late, so her parents began to search for her. They started by asking her friend's family whether or not she had already left for home. They said she had already left quite a while ago and she should already be home by now. Trepidation started to consume Kono's parents, not knowing the whereabouts of their 4-year-old daughter. Marie's father called the police and they began their search. Hello? 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 As Kono's family waited for an answer from the police, they started to receive weird phone calls after Kono's disappearance. Until one day, they received a frightening letter. Inside it contained a picture, teeth, a pile of ash, and a postcard which read, "Marie, cremated. Bones, investigate. Proof." Today, we will look into the horrifying case of the Otaku Serial Killer, Tsutomu Miyazaki. We read, listen, recount stories that fascinate us. It's the stories that we can relate to the most are the ones that become a part of who we are. It excites us knowing that living in the ordinary can also be extraordinary. From the tales and legends that are forgotten and the stories that keep us up at night, I bring you Stories from the Dark, and I'm your host, the Eniqma. Miyazaki was born on August 21st, 1962, in Itsukai, Tokyo, Japan. He was born premature, where he had a birth defect, where the joints of his hands were fused with one another. This makes him unable to move or bend his wrists upwards. His deformity also made him secluded from having any form of companionship when he attended Itsukaichi Elementary School. Because his deformity is something that he experienced ever since he was small, he grew up to become a quiet person and thus made him secretive with his problems. He then attended Meidai Nakano High School, Tokyo. Initially, he was a star student where he would ace every subject that was taught in his class. However, eventually, his grades dropped dramatically. From becoming one of the best students in his class to one of the worst. He had a dream of becoming an English teacher, but because of his poor performance, he wasn't able to enter Meiji University. Rather than pursuing his dream, he opted to become a photo technician instead, which will become a vital role during his murders. In the mid-1980s, Miyazaki moved to his parents' house, which was located near his father's print shop. There, he shared a room with his elder sister. Although he was surrounded with people closest to him, he later expressed how during at this time he was in a state of deep depression to the point where he considered suicide. His family was quite prominent around the area, considering that Miyazaki's father owned a newspaper outlet. However, This didn't interest Miyazaki at all. He later confessed how he only wanted to be heard, to be listened to by his parents and his family. This was apparent in terms of how his family treated him. He was not only secluded at school, but rather he was also secluded in his own home. The only support that he received was from his grandfather, but unfortunately, his only support died in May 1988. This had a deep impact on Miyazaki, where he went further into depression. As a way of keeping the people that he loved, he did something rather peculiar. During the memorial of his grandfather's funeral, he managed to collect a small portion of his grandfather's ashes. Then, he proceeded to swallow it. This later turned into a series of weird behavior where after a few weeks, he was caught watching his sister taking a shower. His sister told him to leave, but rather than leaving, he attacked her. Eventually, his mother attempted to calm Miyazaki down, but she too was attacked by him. It was only a few months after this that he murdered Marie Kono. In total, Miyazaki murdered 4 girls, including Marie Kono. His second murder was on October 3, 1988, where he killed Masami Yoshizawa, where he abducted her as she was walking on the side of the road. On December 12, 1988, he killed Erika Namba. Similar to Kono's case, she was abducted while she was on her way home from her friend's house. His final murder was on June 6, 1989, where he murdered 5-year-old Ayako Nomoto. Whilst feeling petrified after knowing a family member went missing, the family was also said to have received phone calls from an unknown number. If not answered, the phone would ring up to 20 minutes at a time. If the family were to answer the call, they would only hear heavy breathing on the other side. Soon after, they would receive a letter which contains the remains of their dead daughter. All of his murders had a similar pattern. After abducting his victims, he would drive them to a secluded area. Once he has reached the ideal spot, he would sit at the back with his victim for an hour and a half before murdering them. Then, he would have intercourse with the body of his dead victim and leave them at the secluded area. He would then take their clothes and would leave their body to decompose. After a while, he would go back and retrieve their hands and feet, where he would put them in his closet. As for the rest of the body, he would burn them in the furnace at his home, where he would send a letter to the family of his victims containing proof that they were brutally murdered. On July 3, 1989, Miyazaki was about to kidnap a little girl who was playing with her sister in Hachioji Park. He managed to separate the younger sister and left behind the elder sister. The elder sister immediately ran to her home and told her father about what had happened. The father then ran as fast as he could, hoping he wasn't too late. By the time he reached the park, he saw Miyazaki taking photos of his daughter posing in an appropriate position. Enraged, the father attacked Miyazaki. but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to restrain him as he managed to escape. Later that day, Miyazaki went back to the park to retrieve his car but was immediately arrested by the police. When the police searched his apartment, they found thousands of videotapes which contain anime and slasher films. This discovery was later used as the reason as to why he became the Otaku Serial Killer. This brought a huge stigma towards the otaku community, which was argued by many, namely by Eiji Otsuka in his book on crime. Amongst his videotapes collection, the police found pictures and footage of his victims. When he was brought to custody, his demeanor remained indifferent, even during his trial. He was sentenced to death by hanging on April 14, 1997. If you like this video, make sure to hit like and share it with your friends. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. I try my best to post new videos every weekend. Do let me know what topics you would like me to cover in the comment section below. If you have any horror stories you would like to share with me, email us at theenigma@gmail.com. Thank you for watching.